Welcome everybody to the New Fly Fisher. I'm your host, Colin McEwen. Today I'm here with Scott Smith and his son Tim, and we're on the Nipigon River on the north shore of Lake Superior. We're fly fishing for coaster brook trout. Right now it's the end of August and conditions are actually pretty good. Water's high. People are starting to catch some fresh fish. We're hoping the wind will die down a bit and then we can really get into some good fishing. It's going to be a great show. We'll talk about the tactics, techniques, the type of retrieves and casts you need to do. I know you'll learn a lot. Stay with us. It's going to be a great show. The New Fly Fisher is sponsored by Bank of Montreal Atlantic Salmon Federation MasterCard, Ducks Unlimited, Canada's conservation company, Teton Fly Reels. In today's show, we are joining author Scott Smith to fly fish for huge coastal brook trout in and around the famous Nipigon River, which is located just to the east of Thunder Bay. The whole north shore of Lake Superior is blessed with numerous streams and rivers which have little fishing pressure. Most of these waters possess good populations of steelhead, rainbow trout, and brookies. In the fall, Chinook and coho salmon migrate into most of these systems to spawn. We are fly fishing for brook trout, not your ordinary brook trout, but huge coastal brook trout. These fish average 20 inches in length and usually weigh over 5 pounds. Scott felt we should start by trying our luck on Lake Superior casting to shoals and tributary mouths. The weather has been very hot these last 3 weeks in August, and the region is in desperate need of some rain.
Shoreline and coast of Nipigon Bay. It's basically where the Nipigon River empties into Lake Superior, and it's a huge sheltered bay sheltered from the main part of Lake Superior. And there's a lot of shoals and structure along the shore, a lot of big boulders, and it's ideal habitat for brook trout. And they spend, the whole summer feeding around these shoals on crayfish and sculpins and baitfish. And then right around now, they start to concentrate around river mouths and then move up into the Nipigon River system and some of the other tributaries along Nipigon Bay. And typically Lake Superior is just crystal clear, but this water's got a kind of a cloudy stain to it, almost an olive color to it, and that's because of some of the silt and sand that's along the shores here. There's a lot of beaches, real nice sand beaches, but a little further out where the water drops off, there's a lot of clay, and that clay gives some color to the water, which is actually to our benefit. It makes the fish a little bit less wary of the boat and a little more aggressive on the fly. What we're doing today, Colin, is we're going to work some of the shoals along Nipigon Bay here. And it's late August. Some of the fish are already in the tributary streams, but a lot of them will be gathering along the shore, getting ready to go up into their nursery streams where they spawn in late September and October. And we're just going to work some of these rocky shorelines. We've got, we're fishing with these heavy sink tip lines, Wet Tip Express 450s and 350s. And we're going to have, the pattern we're going to fish is one angler is going to cast towards the shoreline. And sometimes the fish are right in tight. And the other angler is going to troll a fly line right behind the boat. And there's a fish just rolls right there. I'll see if I can't put a fly right on him. And the guy trolling the fly is going to be like an indicator for us. We've got him, or Colin is trolling with all the fly line behind out of the rod. So We've got all the fly line laying on the water right to the backing, and that 450 grain express wet tip is going to take that fly down 10 or 12 feet, and then we'll switch after a while. It's really hard to cast this kind of system all day long, and so we'll switch back and forth, and if we hit a fish, we'll concentrate in that area for a while, because usually where there's one, there's a few more, just like any kind of fishing. But and one of the things that I'm really conscious of is always putting a little bit of action on the fly. A lot of brook trout fishermen, or unsuccessful brook trout fishermen, fish the fly without any action. And you have to remember that these fish are after bait fish, and if the bait fish or if the fly is looking like a real live bait fish, that is a fleeing bait fish, there's more chance of them taking it.
The north shore of Lake Superior is pristine, wild, and rugged. For anglers who are truly seeking to get away from it all, this is a great place to explore. The heat was definitely keeping the fish down and making them non-aggressive. Scott suggested we break for a shore lunch and to discuss the fly patterns he uses for these large coaster brook trout.
These are all rabbit strip patterns that work really well in this area. As I mentioned, when we were fishing them, the rabbit strip undulates in the water and has a lot of action. You'll notice we have a wide variety of colors, and just like any streamer or attractor pattern, you want to try very natural looking flies and also very bright and unusual colors. This fly here, for example, this is called the green butt monkey, and it's kind of an unusual name. Very effective fly though. It was developed by Bob Linsenman and myself. You notice it has a green butt, and this sculpin wool has a kind of a coffee color to it, a light coffee color to it, but it shows up really well in our tea-stained tributaries. This is another wild and unusual pattern. This is called a wounded cheesy, and it's basically the same tying instructions as this fly, but it's got a lot more orange, and it's got even orange ice chenille in it. Mm-hmm. And what this fly does is a very good late season brook trout fly, and also coho salmon, because the orange brings out a territorial instinct in the spawning brook trout and spawning coho salmon, and I think they hit it out of aggression. Because it has orange on it, much like maybe it looks to them like a smaller brook trout competing for a mate, and they really hit these flies. When we fish these flies mostly in the smaller tributaries, believe it or not, even though they're almost 4 inches long, when we're fishing the open water, the Nipigon River, we fish these flies like this one here that don't have the head on them. Mm-hmm. So they'll get down quicker. The heavier wool head takes a while to get down to the bottom, so we fish them without a head.
And this pattern is?
This pattern is a Nipigon strip leech. This pattern is developed by Bill Boot from River's Edge Fly Shop in Thunder Bay, and this is his favorite pattern, which is an olive with some chartreuse in the tail, and either gold tinsel chenille or even olive wool. It works really well on brook trout.
Though we tried hard, Scott and I were unable to coax any coaster brook trout to take our offerings. We decided to call it a day and try the Nipigon River the next morning with one of Scott's guides, Dave Jackson. We put in just below Pine Portage Dam. This area truly demonstrates the majestic beauty of the region and the incredible power of the Nipigon River. There is no waiting areas on this stretch of the river, and the use of a reliable power boat is essential. Well, we've moved locations on the Nipigon River. We're now below the Pine Portage Dam, which is above the Alexander Dam. This is another section of the river. It's very fast water. You definitely need a boat, and I would also definitely recommend a guide who knows the waters and knows where the big trout are going to hold, because there's a lot of pocket water here. And what he's doing right now is he's maneuvering me up to the inside of this seam, and he wants me to fish some of the pocket water where the fish will be holding. Well, that was surfboarding. And folks, if your TV screen seems to be bouncing around and you're getting a little nausea, trust me, it's because we're bouncing around too. This is definitely not something you want to try in a canoe with a little electric motor, because all you're going to be is a statistic, unfortunately, if you do. This is big water, fast water, but as Dave has indicated, this is also big fish country. These are big brook trout, and when they see something going by, I mean, they're opportunistic. They have to act quick, and they'll hit it really hard, won't they?
Absolutely. You'll get really aggressive strikes from the fish, especially when they're holding in fast water, because they're not going to waste any time checking it out and counting the number of fins or anything to that extent. They see something that looks good, they're going to hit it.
The scenery and wildlife are truly breathtaking on the Nipigon, and it seems every bend in the river brings you a new natural wonder to behold. And yet, we did not see another person the entire day we spent fishing on this stretch. Like on Lake Superior the day before, it seemed the hot weather combined with little or no precipitation over the past few weeks were creating unfavorable fishing conditions. Frankly, though, the sheer beauty of our surroundings really nullified the fact we were unable to entice any fish to strike our streamers. You have a sense of a true wonder and awe fishing in the Nipigon River Canyon, surrounded by huge boulders and high cliffs. This is an area that explorers, nature lovers, and dreamers can only fantasize about visiting. Ontario is certainly blessed with a multitude of fly fishing opportunities. In Scott's book, Ontario Blue Ribbon Fly Fishing, he details the specifics of various regions of this huge province. It is important to realize just how big Ontario is. In terms of land mass, Ontario is over 1 million square kilometers. There's over 250,000 lakes and an unimaginable number of rivers throughout the province. Of note for anglers, there is 158 different species of fish within the borders of Ontario. The next morning, Scott recommended we try some of the smaller rivers that run into Lake Superior. He felt that we may be able to locate some coaster brookies that were staging in preparation for ascending the rivers for the September spawn. Though the rivers were low, Scott was confident we could locate some fish.
One of the things about a lot of these North Shore Superior streams is that they're what are referred to as oligotrophic streams. They're very acidic, just because of the forest that the stream is coming from. And what happens is you don't get a lot of natural aquatic life in these streams. You'll notice you don't see weed growth. And you might say that, to a fly fisherman, that doesn't sound very good, but really as a nursery stream, it's an ideal situation, because the juvenile fish can find enough forage in the stream to survive, but there's not enough forage for a resident, trout trout of 14 or 15 inches to survive in the stream, and therefore they're not feeding on the smaller fish, on the juveniles.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it an ideal situation for a nursery stream. I'm going to do what's called, some people call it a steeple cast. And it's a cast you use when you've got trees right behind you, normally where your back cast would go. Like these trees here are about 25 feet high or 20 feet high or so. And if I make an ordinary back cast, it's exactly where my fly is going to go. So what I'm going to do is when I make my back cast, I'm going to point the rod, tip of the rod up. One of the things you have to remember is when you're casting, wherever that tip of the rod goes, that's where the fly goes. So if I poke the tip of the rod up, my fly line should follow. So just, you can see how I lift my arm. There, that worked pretty good. The only other thing you have to watch is when you do lay your cast out on the water, you don't slam it into the water because you're punching up and then you're going forward this way. So you have to make sure that you don't slam it into the water and scare the fish. So it's a bit of a trick. This is like an estuary pool where the fish come in and wait for higher water. So quite probably there's a few fish in here. So I'm just going to put a muddler down fairly gently and kind of work it like a bait fish on the surface and see if I can get a take. And if I do, I really have to keep the rod high and keep the fish out of the stick because there's lots of logs and stuff in here.
I'll come up and give you a hand with that.
Really nice fish. It's a good coaster here. Trying to get them on the reel, but we got lots of logs in here. Good fish on a little 5-weight bamboo.
Where do you want me to come in, Scott? Over here?
I don't know if you can.
What's that?
Say, I don't know if you can.
I can get in over here.
Great fish. Great fish. I got my glove here.
You can come in right here if you want.
Sure.
Oh, it's a nice thick one, eh?
Nice thick coaster. Looks like a male. They usually come in first. I'll just keep them out of the wood here if I can.
Yeah, I'll get over to the other side of this log. He's probably the king of this pool.
Oh, I don't know. There's some awfully big fish in this this little stream here.
Got him.
Beautiful.
Oh, look at that.
Beautiful. Really, I mean, it's an 18-inch fish. We just measured it. But, you know, it's really, I mean, that's a great brook trout. But compared to what we're used to here, it's really not huge. Hard to believe, but, you know, we get lots of these that are 24 inches long. That is just a gorgeous, gorgeous fish. I don't know if you can see those nice dots on them, but they're just, that's the typical markings of a brook trout, is the red dots with the blue halos. And that's just a gorgeous fish. Look at the
Sea lice on
sea
there.
lice on him from Lake Superior.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Okay. We better let him go here.
Okay, we're just gonna It's important to hang on to these fish until they're really ready to
Right.
go, just like that. It's over. No, he didn't break off. He stuck my hook on a log. Smart fish. Yeah, he actually did break me off. 3X. Yeah, it was a good fish. It was on a elk hair caddis. Oh well, I was going to release him anyway, but
Though we caught one coaster brookie and lost another, we were unable to bring any more to hand. Of course, the day after I left, Scott told me they had a good rainfall, which brought the coaster brookies into the estuaries and streams. Such is fishing and the fickle fingers of fate. If you're planning to fish and explore the Nipigon River area, I recommend you stay at the lovely Red Rock Inn. For exploring the numerous rivers and streams of northern Lake Superior, then I recommend you stay at the Rossport Inn. The new Fly Fisher is sponsored by Bank of Montreal Atlantic Salmon Federation MasterCard, Ducks Unlimited, Canada's conservation company, Teton Fly Reels.